All right, so this is Sherry Lynn, and I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. We've got some welcoming to do first, and then we're gonna kind of have to speed things up a little bit. Mark, can you hear us okay? I just want to make sure your video is working and your mic.
Yeah, it took me a while to join, but
okay.
I had to update the Zoom.
Great.
Good to go.
Okay, so first I just want to welcome our new member, Kathy. Kathy, I would like you to just say who you are, and she's our new Recreation Committee member from Bolton, and then we'll just introduce the rest of the group. Kathy, go ahead.
That's who I am. I'm Kathy Costello from Bolton. I've been there for about 30 years. Yep. I'm excited to hear about what goes on and throw my, some effort into the mission. So thanks for identifying that earlier.
Yeah, great. Yes. And we can certainly, Kathy, try to, spend some time, either on the phone, if you like, for a little orientation between Kate or myself, and just walk you through where we're at and stuff outside the meeting.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Yep. Okay. All right. And so Duncan, if you can introduce yourself.
Yep. Hi, my name's Duncan Wardwell. I'm the assistant to the town manager in Richmond, Vermont.
Great. And Kate?
Sorry about that. Hi, I'm Kate Kreider. I'm on the rec committee and I live in Richmond, and I think it's been about a year and a half now I've been on the committee.
Yeah, great. And then Mark?
You think I'd be better at this by now? Hi there, Mark Fossil. Nice to meet you all.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Okay. And I'm Sherry Lynn. So we got our 4 committees members out of the 6. And so then I want to go to our guests. So I'm going to go with Kara first. I see her in the corner. Say who you are.
Kara LaBounty, resident of Richmond.
Great. And Grace?
Hi, my name is Grace Colbeth. I'm a student at UVM and I'm studying community-centered design.
Cool. And then Deb?
Sorry, Deb Shelby from Bolton.
Great. And Virginia? Oh, there.
Yes, Virginia Clark. I'm on the Richmond Planning Commission. Just looking in to see what you all are doing.
Okay, great. Yeah, we had a little bit of a delay, but now we're on track. So thank you very much. Okay, I have public comments. We did get an email, so I'm going to read it to you. So this is, public commenting time. Email from Jesse Heiser. And so I'm just going to read it to everyone. Dear Recreation Committee, although I cannot attend in person or via Zoom tonight's meeting, I hope you will take this commentary into your consideration in the discussion regarding changes to the playground at Volunteers Green. The green is a focal point for Richmond and a critical public resource for the community. Given the importance of the space and what must amount to thousands of visitors over the course of the year, it warrants seeking input and ideas in an open way from a wide swath of community members early in the process before the direction of the changes is set, circumscribed. One concern is the breadth of options, including structures of natural materials and nature-based play spaces that the community might consider. As for natural play spaces, there are many people like Don Schneider, former principal at Brookside School in Waterbury, or Alex Mihavix, I'm not sure if I got that name right, of the Bristol Rec Department, who sent along the contacts of folks involved in the Bristol project who are willing to share about their perspective, community's processes for engagement, and the choices made about the types of materials, structures, and layouts. Additionally, Waterbury worked with Yestermorrow at a Waitsfield to build their wheelchair accessible wooden structure treehouse City Center Park in South Burlington, another playground of natural materials, worked with Landworks, a Middlebury-based landscape architecture company, consulting with local organizations and exploring the incorporation of local materials would offer concepts that representatives from prefabricated structure manufacturers could not. I am not alone in the desire to consider carefully the types of changes for the playground. I can think of at least 20 organizations and individuals in just a quick pondering. Many people are likely to have strong feelings about and preferences for surfaces, wood chips instead of synthetic or chemical-based materials for children. This park brings together so many from Richmond and neighboring towns. The space is beloved. Please trust the community to articulate what they'd like to see. Sincerely, Jesse Heiser. So that came in like just before the meeting. So I just wanted to make sure to share that, and it certainly connects to some of our agenda topics. And then I know, Deb, you were just mentioning about the Bolton. That would be an opportunity to make the announcement to the group now that we're all here. The Bolton rec efforts you said earlier.
Well, we just got formed last night with the select board, so we're still working on our mission and what we're going to be doing, but our primary goal is to review what existing outdoor activities are occurring in Bolton, document them, and do some scientific investigation as to the impact that's having on both residents and wildlife, since Bolton is such a critical wildlife corridor, and trying to come up with scientific information that we can then share with the Conservation Commission, the DRB, and the Planning Commission, who will follow through with creating guidelines. We're just providing the resources to gather the data.
Okay. And Deb, are you on that committee then in Bolton?
I am, yes.
Okay, great. Okay, no, that's good information, because I don't know that Bolton has had a committee like this before. Is that accurate?
Not of this nature. This
Okay.
was a brand new thing, and it's, I mean, literally it was last night it got approved. So the notion is that we will be meeting in March, and at that point we will probably put, because it's an official committee, we have to follow all of the rules like you all do.
Yep.
So I'll be working on an agenda. I will be promoting it via Front Porch Forum. It'd be great if I could have a contact in Richmond who could share our information, because we are trying to work with the communities around us, because a lot of people want to do things in Bolton, but we have to figure out how to make it work for everyone. We need a win-win. It's going to be super easy. I expect it to be done in a couple of weeks. No one.
I was just going to suggest, Deb, the Conservation Commission in Richmond is working with some of those issues, the impact of recreation on wildlife, and they're working on creating a speaker series, having some people come and educate the public on some of the science that's currently available. So it might be worth connecting with them. I am on the Conservation Commission as well.
That would be awesome, because what we don't want to do is repeat. And you know, the better people are informed, the better decisions we all make, right?
Definitely.
Great. I will reach out to you then.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Deb. Thanks for sharing that. All right, so any other public comments before I move to the next agenda item? Okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to the minutes, and I want to make sure that we get to spend time on, this was very interesting. Kate and I went to the ARPA committee meeting, And I think it was, I can't remember if it was during the meeting or after the meeting. But now let me make sure I pronounce your name right. Is it Cara? Is that right? I just want to make sure I'm getting it right.
Kara, but it's okay.
Kara,
Kara.
okay, Kara was a member, and she either emailed or she said something in the meeting and said, hey, we got, Grace is a UVM student, and she's been looking at, Brown's Court and Volunteers Green. And so it was just a good opportunity because we presented to ARPA about our ideas around the playground and the structures. So we thought that it would be interesting to hear what that process has been. And so we just want to turn it over to Grace. It has kind of a draft of a layout, thinking about the green spaces in Richmond and what that might look like for a redesign. So this is just an exploration, and we'll have time for questions and answers. Oh, sorry, my dog's making a noise. I'm going to turn it over to you two while I mute myself. Sorry.
Okay. I'm going to just introduce Grace and give a little background so that you all know. Yes, I am on the ARPA committee. Yes, when you presented and you started talking about ideas and playground and picnic tables and all of that, that the discussion started about actually having a design for the playground of what's existing and what could be taken into account from all the I don't know, 300 or more recommendations that were made from the community to the ARPA committee on how to potentially spend the ARPA funds. And a lot of it was around recreation. So trying to put 2 and 2 together and connect the dots. So Grace, I reached out to Grace because I knew this was her degree at UVM, and she volunteered to come up with do a draft of what exists on your playground and take into consideration some of those recommendations. But she also was able to have a site visit with Pete Goslin and myself to walk the park and hear from Pete where infrastructure was already underground and things like that, and take into account where he thought things could go and such. So she then took the design and has done what she has done so far, and I'll let her go through what she's put on her design and show you what she's got. But of course, this was just her coming up with ideas compared to what the list was, the grocery list of what came off the ARPA committee list of things. So.
All right, thank you, Kara, for introducing me. I want to just say I've been working with a professor this last semester, and we had a design innovation challenge, and we got to pick any sort of challenge we wanted to do. And for some reason, I love the Richmond Park right on the Volunteers Green. Every single year growing up, I'd go there for the 4th of July, that whole thing. So I'd always visited there. I'd bring my dog for walks, and I really like it there, but there was, I felt like maybe a park redo would be something that'd be cool to envision one day. And so that was last semester, so way before Kara had even reached out to me. And so ironically enough, I had done a park redesign just with my professor, and I can share that now. I'm going to share my screen if that's working. Is that?
You
Okay,
should be able to.
Okay. Please grant access screen to screen recording. Okay, wait, let me try again. Sorry. Is it going through it all?
I try it again. Let's see.
Interesting. Okay. Sorry, folks. Okay, wait.
There we got something. Oh, no, that's my
it's going
screen. No, my bad.
Duncan's screen.
I got excited because I moved my mouse.
Got you.
Can you make her the presenter, Duncan?
Well, yeah, we've got basically to be the presenter, she would have to start the meeting, but I've got multiple participants can share simultaneously set. You can.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys.
Should just hover at the bottom of your screen and hit share screen.
Yeah, just
hover and it'll pop up.
The same note that says, please grant browser access to screen recording. Sorry.
Go ahead. grant browser access, I think.
Yeah, there might be a little pop-up window in your browser that is blocking something.
Got you. Okay. Yeah,
So
let me
maybe go
pull-
back to your browser and there might be a little pop-down menu or something there, or
Got it. Sorry about that. Okay, let me just try this. Alrighty. I might have to rejoin this actually. It's saying that I have to restart my browser.
okay.
Let me just do that really quick, but if you have something else to talk about in between, that's totally fine. I'll be right back.
Well, maybe we'll just quickly approve the minutes, okay? So we'll be efficient with our time. Okay, so we had the minutes from January 3rd. So I am asking the members if someone would like to make a motion to approve the minutes from January 3rd.
Move to approve the minutes from January 3rd.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay, Kate is seconded. So before we vote on it, are there any discussion points around the minutes from January that need clarification or anything like that? Okay, I don't hear any. So all in favor of passing the minutes for January 3rd of 2023, say aye or raise your hand. Okay. All right. So we got 4 yeses. So the motion's passed. Okay. All right. So now let's see. Do I see? I don't see her yet.
No, she's not back yet.
Okay. All right. We'll just let's just wait. We're okay. This has been one of those evenings here between snow, hail, and technology.
And my Zoom log on, I don't know why my Zoom kept having to reboot. It was very frustrating. I
Yeah.
had to update and then I would update it and then it would disappear and nothing would happen. I had to re-update it. So I'm really glad I'm not trying to log back in and share screens because that would be far beyond my capabilities.
But with all the different tools you use, from Zoom to Teams to WebEx for work and school and stuff like that, it sometimes resets your settings on something else. And
Here we go. She's about to be admitted.
Oh, let her in, let her in.
Alrighty, let's try one more time. Got everything on my end done, so I
Boom.
think we're
looks like
good.
your
Maybe.
screen, yeah. Looks like you got now, yeah, you're sharing the screen, but it looks like us. So now you can hit your different tab.
Yes, perfect.
Yep,
Alrighty.
boom. Yeah, we got it.
Lovely. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so this was the map that I had created for my class last semester. I will note that everything might not be perfectly to scale, but this is what I had created. So I don't know if we want to talk about that at all, but I guess you can kind of just take a peek at it. This one has a lot more of detail into it. I spent a fair amount of time making it. So just keep that in mind while I'm going through this next one of the redesign, just so that, yeah, just I can spend a lot more time on this as needed and whatever wants to be improved, obviously. I'm actually going to pull it up through my Adobe Illustrator just so that I can zoom in and have everything be really crisp for everybody. So I walked the park and we were trying to really look and see what could kind of move around to make some more space. I know there is interest in like having a basketball court. There's interest in improving the playground equipment, in paving the parking lot and everything. So I have that in, and this is the draft of the parking lot that I received from, actually, yes, this is exactly, sorry, it's just on a little angle, so that's kind of hard to view, but those are like the lines and everything with a 30-foot wide opening. So all of those measurements are good on there. But I don't know if people want me to just go through everything, but this is just kind of what we thought of and had worked on. but expanding the play area, we thought obviously is a great area to start with. So that would involve putting those mats down that were donated. So I have like a draft of an area that can go into, adding some swings, adding some more picnic tables, some new benches and things of that nature. And then there was discussion of a Gaga ball pit, which I actually played in middle school and I loved. So I vote for that 100 times. And then there were some ideas for a concrete ping pong table. And I can show some reference images after I finish, but I just wanted to explain what just ping pong meant on there. There's an existing volleyball net that's there. And then this part will be paved through here, but then it will be a dirt path that goes all the way along. And we also discussed making an actual parking area closer to this in between the two baseball diamonds. And to allow for some more space, there was some interest in maybe moving the smaller T-ball or the softball diamond that's there. I know that's a lot to think about, but it's just an idea for us to consider during this really pre-design phase. There would be a ton of parking, parallel parking all along the side there. As you can see, these slash marks. All of this would be parking as well. Hopefully we could find a way to get those parking lines in so people can have more access to park. And I actually did a field visit for my class last semester, and I chatted with a few people just in the park that day. And there was a lot of emphasis on how many people bring their dog to the park and how interested they would be to have some sort of dog enclosure, dog park area. So we have this over here for now, but obviously things can move. But that is kind of the main of it. But we also are hoping to maybe add a pavilion, sort of like the Maple Street Park pavilions. You could connect power here from the bathroom, so that line already exists. And similar to that line, there are lines that I have mapped over here that already exist underneath from the telephone pole right there. This right here, this yellow part is the septic line that goes all the way down. Sorry, I'm a little scatterbrained. I feel like I'm going back and forth, but I'm gonna just keep rolling with it. And the main thing that I think would be really, really amazing would to get a paved path all along the outside of like the whole park, so people can, you know, with their strollers, they're walking, they're running, cross country skiing maybe, things of that nature. There's also, I had an idea to right outside, I've gone swimming in the river, and it's kind of awkward when you're like getting out of the river and then you have to like go to your car and you're all wet. So maybe adding some sort of changing station there that would allow people to like get in and out of swimsuits, I think would help. And this is a proposed area for the basketball court. And this court could be multi-season use. So that basically means in the warmer months, it could be a basketball court, and then we could flood it in the winter like there is right now and have it like a skating rink with lights and everything, so that it can, I mean, it gets dark at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we'll have lights so that skating rink can be up at night too, or we would. I think that's the majority of it, but I also want to just go back out here so everyone can kind of see everything. I kind of left some of this satellite imagery in, so it was easier to kind of imagine where everything is. And I guess I can move on to Brown's Court, or if there's any questions or anything.
So what's,
now. Sorry.
there's a bunch of 1, 2, 3, 4. What are those next to the baseball field?
Yeah, so those are soccer fields.
Oh, okay.
There's a ton of them there already.
Okay.
And I think there might even be more that just don't have the lines existing. But
okay, I didn't realize there was that. Are there really that many? They're already like 4 or 5? Wow.
Yeah, there's
I
a
thought
lot,
they
and
were like-
sometimes they have them in through here too, as well in the summer months, for like the little kids, the little leagues, which are amazing,
Okay.
obviously.
Yeah, the
Right.
fall soccer, they make smaller fields closer to the playground too, because they need
Okay.
so many.
Yeah, I
Right,
guess
so-
I didn't realize that. Okay, yeah, that's great.
Grace,
Totally.
before you go to Brown's Court, can you show them the imagery of some of those items that you talked about that you had showed me?
Yeah, for sure. All right, let me come over here. So this would be some of the options or inspiration ideas for the Gaga ball pit. So you can make it out of plastic if you want. You can get these pre-made. Obviously, you'd order them, or you could have
You must
somebody
be
make it out
seeing
of
deer
wood.
out there. I mean, we've got a lot of hoof prints out there.
Yeah, so there's some options there. This is like the concrete ping pong table, which I thought was really cool. It's obviously just an idea, but I think that would get some more people there. I know I'd love to play some ping pong. And these are benches that actually are able to turn into a picnic table and convert, I guess is the better word for that. But those are pretty cool and would allow for people to either have a bench or obviously make it to a picnic table. So that could be something to consider as well. And one thing that I'm obviously very excited about looking at would be a pavilion. So I pulled just a couple kind of more like rustic feel, in my opinion, some pavilions. This again, just for imagination sake, but yeah, that's basically some of the images I pulled. Obviously, that doesn't have to be exactly what's done or if anything, but I just wanted to put some pictures to these little symbols on a map.
Yeah, that's great. You know, it's interesting. We actually have looked at those cool benches that convert to picnic tables. That
Oh,
was
nice.
that was one of the things that we wanted to do with the ARPA money was purchase some of those. And you know, one of the interesting things is there actually was a resident of Richmond that wanted to donate the materials, I think, for the Gaga pit. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think they wanted to help build it or something. That was a year ago, so I don't know where that landed, but I
Totally.
didn't. Yeah, I think it was more of a wooden structure, but I see that other one is a plastic structure. Okay. No,
Yeah.
that's very helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. So totally lots of options for any and
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's super cool that someone might donate. That would be awesome. Maybe they can have their name on it somewhere if they help build
Right.
it or something.
Yeah. That was,
Um,
yeah. I'll have to look
perfect.
at my email. I know it came through.
I'll switch over to the Browns Court map for you folks. I will.
Sorry, Sherry, Mark had his hand up. I didn't know if he had something to say about Volunteers Green before we
Oh,
move on.
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
go
totally.
ahead,
Sorry,
Mark.
I can't see anything for hands at all.
Okay.
That's, it was a passing thought, but I just wanted to make it clear, those soccer fields in the back corner by the treatment plant, yeah, those guys aren't really full size. I mean, those are pretty small going
Okay.
that length. You can get a full size soccer field in there. In fact,
Okay.
MU used to play back there, and when their fields were getting rebuilt, but basically that's one full soccer field.
Got it. Okay.
Just so you for scale.
Yep.
Perfect.
That's great. Thank you, Mark. I was so focused on the pictures, I didn't see your hand.
Yeah, I will rely on you to help me with the hands. I just cannot see anything.
right.
Perfect. All right. I'll hop over to here. So this is obviously a work in progress, as you can see. But right now, the idea behind this would be to have a tennis court and some pickleball courts alongside of the tennis court. I feel like a lot of older generations are really into pickleball, and this might give them an area that they could go to that is kind of more low key, a little less crowded or loud even. I know there's a lot of houses through here, so just to be mindful of the surrounding community, of course. But this is an already existing softball field there. I just added that for helping imagine that. But it would be great if we could have a little bit bigger of a parking area too. But again, this is all just an idea. But I really think that a pickleball court or a tennis court or both or either one would be really cool. And I know some of my grandparents would love to have somewhere to go to play some like tennis or pickleball at like 5 a.m. or something. But yeah, I'll definitely just hold it here. Any questions or anything? I can also get rid of this to just show what is actually existing there already. Yeah, I can just grab those out of there too, just so you can see what the satellite actually looks like. Yeah, that's about it that I have to share for now, but I'll open the floor up for anybody.
Okay, so I'll go to the committee members. Do you have any questions or comments generally? I think it's great work. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Of course, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. So,
Grace, that is awesome. So that baseball field that's on the Browns court.
Yes.
So how far? Actually, honestly, do we have any idea who uses it now? And for little league or practice, t-ball, whatever. And would that impact I'd hate to have some pickleball player get beamed.
Yeah.
About the space.
I think it's used for softball leagues right now.
Can I speak, Grace? Because Pete
Absolutely.
Goslin, when you met with Pete Goslin said it's a middle school softball. So, and when you do pickleball and tennis courts, you fence it. So if a ball came from the field, it's going to hit the fence more than likely. But they would be surprised if a middle school girl could hit the ball in that field, in the, I don't know, left field, right field. You know what I'm saying, Mark?
I do.
That
I'm
it's
just
a left-handed hitter that would hit in that direction, and you have very few left-handed hitters that can hit.
Yeah.
And it's girls middle school softball is what Pete Goslin said, along with a lot of the other suggestions, like where the dog park goes and stuff like that. A lot of that came from Pete Goslin. And when she was saying, like, when we met, he gave her the plans for the parking lot that he already had drawn up. He gave her a lot of that stuff.
Okay. All right. So that back corner is again the in the back open area, way directly back from the pitcher's mound, straight back. That open area, that's Central Dog Park.
Oh, are you talking about for here or
Yes.
for this back here?
No, not back there. No.
Okay.
I'm just thinking as far as space goes. That
Gotcha.
open area back there. Although that's probably leaves a little room for bocce courts too.
Yeah. Totally open for any sort of input, even to me. I know that this isn't like official or anything, but I can make up other drafts too if maybe there's a dog park over here next time or something. So no worries there.
The comment that Pete had said about the dog park, Mark, why he was putting it there, Grace, see, there's more houses right here. If you can go to where he put it, can you just show him that again? So do you have the aerial view of that by any chance? Because there was it was tucked into the trees more so that the sound of dogs barking and playing wouldn't necessarily carry, and there's no houses right in that area. So that's kind of why Pete recommended that area. Listen, I'm not going to take my dog to the park. I have my own plenty of room for my own dog at my house, but so for me, I have no dogs in this race. But that's what Pete was saying, and that's why that thought came, was that if the paved path was all the way around too, it would possibly get people with young children and strollers and children learning to ride bikes and other people potentially off Cochrane Road and giving them nice smooth surface to be on around the park, and it had adequate parking and stuff like that. And so that's why he said if the trail goes all the way down to where the dog park is, that could work too. So I don't mean to cut you off, Grace. I'm just adding in what I picked up
Yeah,
from the
totally
conversation
good.
when he was doing stuff. And then there's a little orange shed at the end of the big parking lot that was there to store the baseball equipment in. That is still saved there.
And
Okay.
that paved walking area along the river, that is not overlaid on top of the current dirt path that hugs the
No,
river.
no, this is inside the tree line. The dirt path goes into the tree line. So there'd be a dirt path along the river still. It's up on the outside the tree line area is where Pete recommended it go. So not imposing on the tree line at all.
Because we have some plantings in there now too.
You do have some plantings in there, and some discussion was talked about. Grace, can you zoom into where the water was? Some discussion was talked about the reason they rip-wrapped from the bridge to the water access was because that's how much money they had. So there's potentially, see the gray rip-wrap that she's got going there to help prevent the erosion, that if there was ARPA funding available to do that, to continue to do some rip-wrap to protect the park. But yeah, the blue line can move based on trees and plantings and all of that kind of stuff. But the intent of that Pete had was to keep it inside the on the field side and not the river and not into the trees at all.
Thanks, Karen. Hey, Kate.
And he did say he'd build it, 5 feet or the width that is that they do for the sidewalks, because he could use that same piece of equipment that he plows the sidewalks with and plow it.
Okay, so it'd be year round.
Yes.
Kate, as member of the Conservation Commission, what's the stance on riprap and riprap along the park here? I know I've heard different arguments for pros and cons, and I'm just wondering if there's any kind of consensus or perspective from the Conservation Committee.
Unfortunately, I do not have any knowledge of that. The year and a half I've been on the Conservation Commission, we've mostly been talking about Andrews Community Forest. So riprap hasn't come up. I'm sure there's someone on the committee who has more knowledge about it, but I personally don't have any.
And
so I'm looking at the time, Mark. So if you have one more question, we need to continue to have a discussion about.
No, this is still at the beginning. Let's keep moving.
Okay. All right. So you're all set. No
Sure.
other questions. I mean, we have time for one more, maybe.
I could dig deep, but that's fine.
Okay. Okay. So if you could stop sharing your screen, Grace.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Okay, so I really appreciate this information. I mean, I think that again, this whole design that's been presented is beyond what our scope of work was as the rec committee. We went into the ARPA committee, focusing on the playground, the benches, fixing up the existing structure. But this is great, information. And I think we just have to, continue our conversations about, some of the feedback we got from ARPA committee members, and just discuss the different budget items that came up in the course of this, talking to ARPA and then talking to Duncan and finding out about what is already funded for maintenance for recreation and equipment for recreation. So we just got to pull it all together and really have a conversation about what makes sense, for moving forward. But, I think that Grace, I don't know how long you're at UVM, but there might be an opportunity, you never know, for a public meeting where you could present the design. I mean, I can imagine that might be a possibility, because like with everything, the public engagement is so important. It's great that you got to test on us and give your insights. It's great that Pete was involved and Kara was involved. So it's all great information, but you know, I got your email, and we may be in touch later if that's okay. And just again, really appreciate it's amazing that the timing was you did this last semester and then it came into
It was incredible timing. When I heard
Yeah.
Kara tell me that, I was like, this is really weird, but
Yeah.
I already did this.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Yeah. And Kara,
Yeah,
thank you
thank you so much.
bringing that to light. That's wonderful that you were able to connect the dots for us. Thank you very much.
Well, whether it works or not for you, I just thought
Yeah.
if there's a whole list that ARPA's looking at that we've heard
Yep.
about trails and bike
Yep.
paths and recreational opportunities, and for
Yeah.
both all generations from young to retired, that it was just, well,
Yeah.
I'll give her the list. Let her see what she
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, no, that's great. So we're gonna go ahead and move to our next agenda item. You're welcome to listen. And again, I appreciate it. And I'm just gonna move us to the, yeah, thanks so much. And here's, so let's just move to the next thing about, you know, Kate and I went to the ARPA committee. I can't remember which month it was. Was it January? God, I lost track of time. But so we went in with the original request was around what we had put in the VORAC grant. You know, we wanted to focus on the playground, replacing the playground, the benches, you know, maintenance on the structures, using the mats. I think I sent you everyone. I don't know that Kathy has it, but we did up a memo. It was about $200,000. And what was interesting is, and that's why I decided to pull the survey that we did of the community is, you know, there were some other items that the committee was interested in that made their survey list. And we hadn't presented them. And so I thought that we kind of agreed that, well, we'll go back and talk to the rec committee members just to get a feel for what they, you know, what you think about the other ideas. But our original request from them was to look at what do we have in our priority list that matches up with the ARPA list, which is what we did. So with that said, I'm going to just let Kate, if there's something I'm missing from that conversation with the ARPA committee. I know there were like 3 or 4 specific things that they were interested in, and I'm getting my list together. But what else am I forgetting, Kate? Anything? I'm going to pull the ARPA list now, so I can tell you. Okay.
What exactly was your question?
So what they honed in on that we didn't talk about is they were talking about the tennis courts.
Right.
Yeah, the pickleball courts and the basketball courts were mentioned. Those were like the big ones. And the 4th thing they talked about was kind of the idea of a exercise. What do you call that? Parkour court around
the exercise stations.
Yeah, exercise station. So they appreciated our, you know, giving them estimates of what it would cost, but then they were really excited about, boy, you know, this would be really good to have, you know, and, you know, it was something that we didn't have on our list. So they just kept on asking. And I think it was like, well, we'll certainly have the conversation. I think one of the things that's very interesting is I looked at the community survey that had about 500 people and that responded. And so this is very interesting because it kind of aligns with the design that Grace showed us. Number 1 priorities, there were some ties. Hard surface walking loop. Remember she showed that? A pool, which we know that was like really hard, a dog park. So that was the number 1, those 3 things kind of rose to the top. And then the second one, again, the hard surface walking loop seemed to be a second priority. And then the tennis courts and an outdoor basketball courts, which again, we haven't really considered because we've been so focused on, let's, see if we can make those improvements that are needed at the Volunteers Green. And then the third one, they talked about pavilion, outdoor seating, mountain bike track. So it's just kind of interesting that at least for this survey that included more residents from, Richmond, Huntington, and Bolton, that there are some things here that were picked as, 1, 2, and 3 priorities that kind of line up with the design. So I just wanted to share that. And I just wanted to get your feel for, the ARPA committee was open to us going back and making another request. There was some conversation that they felt like the playground was maybe should be expanded and bigger instead of just replaced. And there was some conversation about, does it need to be replaced, the entire playground or not? And so some of the stuff they said, like we had down there, let's do more trash recycled. And that was something that we could request to be replaced in the $3,000 equipment line. That there's a $3,000 equipment line and a $3,000 maintenance line in the town budget. But we can't, we can only make a request to the select board that things be purchased with that or fixed. So that's something we didn't know about originally, that there was at least some funding there. So I'm gonna stop talking and I'm just gonna, check in with the committee members to think about whether or not for the ARPA funding, any of the additional items like the basketball courts, the walking loop, the dog park, is that anything that we would want to go back to the ARPA committee and ask for additional funding? I guess that's the question I'm asking folks. What do they think about that? So the floor is open.
I have a question about, so is this in the pickleball / tennis court was not at the top three desires, right? From that survey?
From the survey, the tennis courts were, let me just double check, hang on a second. Let me look. Where's my list? I know the tennis courts were on there. Let me just make sure.
You said they were second in my notes, Sherry. You said they were second. Tennis court and outdoor basketball courts were kind of like the second most popular things.
Yeah, I do. You know what's weird is I don't see pickleball on first, second, or third choice. No, so I don't see pickleball.
Does a tennis court can be a pickleball court?
Oh, okay. Good to know.
Right.
I didn't know that. Okay.
I believe,
Yes.
yeah. So for, in my thinking is to have a broad range of use. A tennis court / pickleball court could also be perhaps a skating rink, like that meets a broader range of age.
Yeah.
Age.
Multi-purpose. Yeah.
Multi-purpose,
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was just one thought I had.
Oh, that's very good. I didn't know that you could actually, so that's interesting. Can you actually flood a tennis court and it's okay in the wintertime? I didn't know that. I mean,
I don't know. I don't know that, but if you can flood a basketball court.
Yeah.
It seems to me that you maybe would be able to flood a tennis court, but I
Okay.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea, that multi-purpose. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so that's
Well,
interesting.
and can you put a basketball, I mean, I don't know, like, can you put a basketball hoop at the end of a tennis court and have it be, you know, a half court. Just, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, yeah,
I don't know the technology of that, but just an
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, that's great.
And it might just, speaking of flooding, we just might want to think of volunteers green. I know there are some regulations on what can go in there based on it being a floodplain. I don't know those specifics, but there is, that's always where we've kind of bumped up against things, even with like that Gaga ball court, I think it was.
Yeah. Yeah,
Whatever style it was, it's like, well, we don't really have a plan with it floods. So those are some of the
Well,
issues.
Is that true of the hard walking path also?
That's what I don't know. That was, I don't know with a sidewalk. I mean, obviously sidewalks flood and they're fine, but if, I was thinking what Pete said, if it's a sidewalk rate, but I don't know. That
It could
sounds,
just rip it up and be gone.
it could just be gone. And that's
Yeah.
where we might have issues, or other things. I don't know. I just remember that it's come up in the past.
Those are good questions.
Whenever we tried to build things when I was there many years ago, it was just, oh, floodplain, you gotta be really careful of the floodplain.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, Ravi used to mention that too, so it'd definitely be worth checking into. And the other concern is, I think the courts are awesome, but is the town going to pay to maintain it? I don't know how expensive that is, but I know that was one of the concerns with ARPA funding. Like they, don't really want to pay for stuff that's gonna have and cost in the future to keep it maintained.
yeah,
We don't want to put it in and then have the town be like, oh yeah, we're not going to pay to maintain it,
yeah, yeah.
Well, and are there basketball courts up at the middle school? Isn't there?
There's a couple of courts.
There's
up
a
there.
couple courts up in the middle school. Well, I don't know how much use they get.
Yeah, yeah,
For to get up there, and they're they're smaller courts that are more.
They're small, but my son played basketball at MMU and they used to meet there all the time. It's not great. It's certainly not great. It's not like I would want, but it is used. It's small use.
That's the operative term, Duncan.
Right.
It's not great. It would be nice.
Right.
And there is some very specific floodplain language in the current regs that talk about not building primary structures in the floodplain, but that we've already got a concession stand and restrooms that are in the floodplain. The impact of, the whole idea behind the floodplain regulations and not allowing construction there is that a risk to life if residential areas are built up there, but also impacting the flow of water. And a basketball court and a tennis court aren't really going to impact the flow of water. You've got the fencing around the baseball diamonds that are already pre-existing, and they've weathered many a flood in the 20 years I've been here. Many, I think I exaggerate, a couple. And I think a basketball court and, if you have to fence off a tennis court or whatever, we're going to run into some issues trying to build a structure like a pavilion, as much as I think a pavilion is, but a pavilion with accessory restrooms and that kind of thing are going to be a stumbling block. Can we always, contract PMP to bring in the blue boxes to address that need? Yeah, we can, but we could put in a pavilion. You're just dealing with posts. There's no flood inhibition. There's no added height to the floodplain by installing these buildings. There's no real obstruction, although the fence can be argued either way, fencing as floodplain obstructions. But if we want to go forward with this, and I personally think it's a good idea, we could probably tweak the floodplain regulations and I've had different interpretations. I've also had Revy interpret that fencing isn't necessarily a floodplain taboo. But the rest of that stuff is flat. Once it's in, it's level. It can not have any effects on water table increases during flooding events, which is really the goal of our floodplain regulations is not compounding the problems for people downstream and not putting life and limb at risk. I don't think a public park that might get flooded once every couple of years or few, it's been a while now since we've had the last one. And I think that's an easy thing to sell to the community.
Yeah, because one of the things that I was a little surprised at the ARPA meeting is they like the idea of, adding things. And so that was shocking to me because I didn't think we could. But the other thing they wanted to add on to is they wanted to add on to the playground, the existing playground, to make it a bigger structure. And so like, I didn't think we could do that. So that's why, again, when we came up with the Borac application, I think, we were just like, okay, we use existing structures, we're going to improve them and replace them, and it did include, our ARPA recommendation had all new playground equipment, mat installation, benches, tables, band shell repairs, landscaping, trash and recycling, gaga pit, and signage. So we had a lot of really good improvements listed there. And then I think that they were thinking, well, you could ask for much more. I think is that's the sense I got. And that, maybe some of this stuff that we're requesting is really like the town may have some budget with the equipment or the maintenance budget line, which is $3,000 a piece. And then they also mentioned maybe we need to think about the capital budget. So I'm not sure where we landed, but we said we would have a discussion with everyone on the committee to see if there was anything different that we would want to recommend. So I'm really impressed with the amount of thought and planning that's going on into this. Okay, thanks, Lisa. I see your comment. So it's interesting, Mark. I'm glad that you posed that, clarified that for us a little bit.
Well, part of that is from historical memory, which I honestly trust myself too well on that.
Yeah.
But also I was there for the whole floodplain zoning regulations, writing, whatever. But if you go into the zoning regs, there is a great write-up in section 682 of the zoning regulation, statement of purposes of having the floodplain hazard overlay district. And honestly, I think that all of our suggestions tonight are compatible with those purposes as they're stated. And, just again, I'm like 5'2" and haven't touched a basketball in 30 years, but, a basketball court, you're looking at on the same square footage as a tennis court, you're looking at 10 to 15 players engaging and playing in the same time frame that maybe 4 people on a tennis court can get in on the same. So as far as entertainment value, recreation value, I think basketball courts rank pretty high.
Yeah, and they definitely did on the survey, number 2, so I mean, and again, I guess it's interesting to think, well, with this ARPA money, I mean, we can certainly go back and say, in addition to our $249,000 for the playground, et cetera, we looked at our community survey from a couple years ago, and the basketball court would fill multiple purposes, as Kathy had mentioned. We can have
cheaper than a $260,000 playground.
Oh, I'm not saying to substitute, Mark. I'm saying to make an additional ask.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, we want to expand the playground and everything. I agree that, you know, you want to have something for kids under 5. That's
yeah,
important.
yes,
Trying to
yeah,
service the whole community, pickleball courts and tennis courts and Browns court area. But you know, those are going to be entertained by adults who most likely are able to travel and get
Yeah.
around and get up to drive up to Browns Court
yeah,
versus in the village park green, you know, that's walkable and
I see, yeah,
it services a
Yeah.
much broader age range
yeah,
and volume of kids to partake.
yeah. Yeah, okay, so if I understand you, again, the focus on the playground and the other structures still makes sense, but, and expand, because again, it's walkable, it's right there, it brings a lot of people, and there is stuff for older people to do. I think the one thing we did not consider is adding on to the playground. We just went with the existing structure, but adding on more of a playground would cost more. I don't think
Right.
our 240,
That would be awesome and
Yeah.
good for the kids. But if it's a matter of making, you know, and one extra slide climbing
yeah,
system for the kids versus putting in a basketball court where literally you're just, you know, you're digging up the ground, you're laying down some basement, you're laying down some tar, and you're putting a couple poles in the ground. If it's a cost benefit ratio, a super large play structure for kids under 5 versus a basketball court for everybody from, you know, whatever, 10 to 40. I think we've got to think about budgeting a basketball court into this ARPA money.
okay. So you can see that as being multi-generational, making it like for everyone.
Right. I mean, I've gone down a slide or two in my day.
Yeah, yeah,
I still enjoy them as an adult, but you know, I don't know. It blows my mind that it's $260,000 worth of playground equipment. That's literally blowing my mind. You could build a house for that and change.
yeah, I mean, I think.
What is entailed in that and what it is and the extra hooplas of the extra you know, the local buy-in and the locally sourced products, you know, adding to those costs, you know,
Yeah.
we want to bring
Yeah.
this in budget, and if we can get something for the kids and some picnic tables and awesome to have a pavilion for some sheltered recreation for picnicking and stuff, but
Yeah,
bang for
so
the
so the budget that again, Kirsten helped with was tables, you know, were $10,000, benches were 5,000, the actual playground, which would be accessible, natural elements, low environmental impact, was 200,000, signage 2,000, large green sign replacement 8,000, trash and recycling 5,000, the work to do on the groundwork and installation 5,000, band shell repairs 10,000, band shell landscaping 1,000, additional restroom 1,000, and the Gaga pit was 2,000. That came up to 249,000.
Wonder how much we could trim off of that with a little volunteer action.
What were the tables? What were the tables and benches made of? Did you?
Yeah, it was the same stuff that the Radiant group, art group purchased, 6-foot rectangular. I think they're made of that, what do you call it? The composite or the, you know,
Yeah,
not the
yeah.
wood. And they were 8-foot ADA rectangles, so they're supposed to be accessible.
Yeah.
And the benches were also the recycled plastic or the, convertible into the picnic tables like she showed us. So we
How many
actually had those.
picnic tables were they counting there in that summary?
I think we were planning on 6.
Do they all have to be ADA accessible? I mean, can we find
So-
something? I mean, I can make one for like $150 with current wood costs. You know what I mean? Just trying to put some economy to this and maximize.
Yeah, I guess the ADA ones are 8 feet long because it probably has to do with being able to bring like a wheelchair in, I'm sure. And so those were 1,200 a piece.
Right, and that's you need to have that. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. You
Yeah,
need to have a few of those because there's all sorts of different circumstances
Yeah.
where those would be applicable. But do all of them have to be $1,200?
Right.
Is what you said?
yeah.
I mean, that's
No.
a we
Yeah.
take some of that, and all of a sudden we've got the asphalt covered for the basketball court by making just a couple of.
Well, so here's the thing, Mark. I don't think the question is, what do we scale down? They're not asking us to scale down our original request. They're actually asking us, would you be willing to research it and come back with what the cost might be for a basketball court or for, the park court and stuff like that. Now, I think it sounds like we're interested in the basketball court as an addition. So we
Yeah.
don't need to scale anything down. They're actually trying to, they seem to really support the idea of recreation activities. Kate, tell me if I'm wrong, but they were very excited about, well, what do you guys think about this? But they have no idea what it would cost and whether or not it's something that, would be, where we would support and help and engage the community. And, we'd have to do that anyways for the playground equipment.
Yeah, no, they want us to ask for more, basically.
Yeah, Yeah, we don't have to cut Mark. That's the thing. We can just ask for more. And what I'm hearing is, now tell me if I'm wrong, I'm going to summarize this, but it seems like the basketball court does fit with what originally the community had said they wanted. It can, again, if we can figure out how to put pickleball on there for certain times, that'd be great.
Two
And
basketball courts, get tournament action going on.
yeah,
Of leagues that play basketball that get out, and I mean that's less impact and more people
Yeah.
in the village than the Floatapalooza.
yeah.
Coming in and
The only question would be space, but yeah, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
I'm
and
also curious, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm also curious about the impact of open green space with the different, you got the basketball court and the pavilion, like, how does that feel? I don't know. I guess I need to go back and look at that, but I'm just curious about how that feels around just general green space. I mean, it's good to have a pavilion or a covered area, but with the combination of things, how much, people are playing ultimate frisbee there, other stuff is going on, and there's something to be said about open green space to just go play without all of it. So I don't know if you've had conversations about that previously.
Yeah, it's a great question, Kathy. I think, again, we were kind of approaching this and being so focused on the existing
Yeah.
structures.
Yeah.
We didn't even think, we kind of talked a little bit about a pavilion. Would that be nice? Because Duncan always shares about all the events that are happening, in the volunteers green, and we thought a little shelter would be nice. But we haven't actually decided that that's something we want to try to fundraise for or find funding for.
Yeah.
It certainly is nice, but it is a, balancing act of there's a bunch of green space and that's what it's meant to be. And so you make it, your soccer fields, and it's like
Right,
things
right.
less of an impact. So yeah, I don't know that we really have had enough conversation about the pavilion.
Well,
Um,
the pavilion in today's market would probably come close to the same cost as that $200,000 playground.
yeah,
But it's square footage. It's flood inhibition. It's on posts. You got a roof, but other than that, you just got some picnic tables underneath, maybe some charcoal grill built into them.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's not a big footprint. And I'm sorry, miss, I forgot your name and it's not
Yeah.
showing.
Oh, Kathy, I'm Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
Yeah.
I
Hi.
forget. But no, you have an excellent point about green space and leaving that open. And when you get down there, there's a lot of open space and back where those soccer fields were lined up in Grace's presentation. Those, that's a lot of open space for ultimate frisbee and whatever, even when all the kids are playing baseball and whatever, you can have a full-blown, full-size soccer game or ultimate frisbee game on the other side of those trees. It's really very spacious. The one thing we didn't talk about is the field conditions themselves. Like to make a good field, you kind of have to, you have to build that. It takes a lot of landscaping to do that. And if we're looking at spending money in the world of ARPA, investing in building a really nice field area back where those 4 soccer fields were. It's a great area. It's open, pretty dry, it drains fairly well all in all. But you could imagine putting in a good sized field that maximize some landscaping that brings in a little bit of fill or re-engineers the fill, because technically as part of the floodplain, we're not allowed to bring in any fill. There's nothing you can do that artificially raises the elevation of any area. But with landscaping, you could mound a really nice field back there and have that installed that would last for a lot of years. So putting that on the ARPA list wouldn't be the worst idea. Is just pure landscaping, a decent, good drainage field, and maybe rebuilding the baseball fields. If we get I love spending my own tax money on stuff that me and my community can appreciate, and if that's a route we're going, then rebuilding those baseball fields and making those more of an attraction for kids. I remember, granted, my kids are 15 years out of baseball and that kind of thing, but that wasn't the greatest field, the greatest baseball field. And there was, I don't know what it's done since. I haven't had cause to go down there since, because the kids have moved on, but building that up and making that a good, proper field with, again, landscaping, just like could probably be expensive.
Yeah.
Really add value to it. So it's a place where you want to come. You can schedule little league games there. And then all of a sudden you've got, these families from out of town coming into Richmond who, to enjoy the field and shop and experience Richmond. I think that has a lot of benefit that the value gets multiplied.
okay, so again, I think we've got like kind of 3 potential ideas. So I'm going to summarize because we're getting close to the end of our 90-minute meeting. So what I hear is that the committee members are definitely interested in researching a request for the basketball court, keeping in mind that we want to make sure there's enough green space. So that would be contingent on, again, what makes the most sense. I think the other thing we're hearing is that we did not dabble in making improvements to the baseball fields or the soccer fields in our request. We were honing in on the playground. So that's something that I'm hearing might be worth looking at. And then the third thing was, there was a third thing. Oh, well, I kind of heard a third thing. The pavilion's a nice idea. But again, we have to balance it with, can you actually put a structure on? It's a floodplain. It has some great value. It was listed as a third priority on the community survey. So I always look to that to say, what's my data? So,
I'm sorry.
I didn't hear what you
I
said.
agree with you. It was talked about in public outreach, and pavilion is a great idea if we want to bump that up on the list to get our thinking about that.
Yeah, so I think we need to have our next steps is we have to come up with dollar amounts. You know, we can certainly say that we discussed it, but I'd rather come up with some ideas for what the costs are. So I'm wondering how we would go about doing that with the with the basketball. This is where Kirsten is really helpful. The fields and stuff. So I feel like maybe we should think on our next meeting, we should think about, okay, can we put these numbers together and then just put in a second request? And again, back it up with, we discussed X, Y, the Z, and what the justification would be.
Not a ton, but some committees are.
And I think that it is interesting. I just think we need another meeting to talk about it. Does that sound okay?
I'm sorry, Sherry. How long do we have to get back to ARPA on like, okay, this is our final list of things that are prioritized?
Well, we're not going to change the memo we already sent them. So I got a feeling, I'm trying to remember, Kate, they're trying to get, I thought they said September, what the recommendations are to the select board. Was it September, Kate? Oh my God.
I think so. I know they have until 2024, but I know they were trying to get it done this year, 2023. You might be right. I don't really remember if it was September or another time, but I mean, if we let her like Kara know, like this is our plan, we're probably going to update our request, but we won't have it for a couple months.
Yeah.
You can always give us feedback if that's going to be too late or not.
Yeah.
I mean, if we run out of time, we could still just always request our original.
Yeah, I think, again, I'm not going to withdraw the original. I think it would be clear, and it would go to Jay and Josh and copy Duncan and say, hey, so we've had a conversation. We still want our original request to be considered. We need more time to look at 3 other things after having Kara and Beth come in to discuss a design. And we'll march, if we don't get back to you until April, is that okay? I just think that that's the best we can do. Whether or not we can pull the information together, but hopefully we can. And I think the only other thing that I want to say before we leave is, I'm just looking at the comments here. The only thing I wanted to say is one of the other discussions at ARPA that came up is some people were wondering if we need to replace the playground or just fix it. So my understanding is, and I think I said it at the meeting, is that there are health and safety issues with the playground. It needs to be replaced. However, we have done some research and found out that we don't have a recent inspection from the Vermont City of Leagues and Towns on the playground. And so my question to you all is, do you think it's a good idea if we get an inspection? And if it costs money, that we make a request to the select board that they use the maintenance or the equipment line for recreation to pay for the inspection of the playground, so we know what exactly is good and what's not good with the playground. So that was my one really important question I wanted to ask you guys, if that made sense to do that.
Don't we have a line item in there in your proposal that you sent in for the playground replacement, basically? I mean, $200,000, we're not just, tightening screws,
We did, but I think what I think the inspection will do for us, Mark, is it buys us some time, because the ARPA money would be decided in 2024 and spent by 2026. So I think what we were thinking is, let's have the inspection to find out if we need to do some temporary repairs while waiting for the full replacement. That's, I think, Kate, is that correct? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that was the plan, just to keep it safe for use until we're able to replace it, basically. So
Yeah.
that's why we'd be asking to use some of the funds that the town already has set aside for repairs at Volunteers Green.
But I will tell you, Mark, that there was some questions from the ARPA committee whether or not we needed to replace the playground. So
come with that.
What was that?
I can see their perspective.
Yeah, and so I did think that maybe a second thing about having an inspection is it would say, yeah, you guys need to, this is terrible, you got to get this replaced. So I don't know if they would say that. They probably wouldn't say that, but I just think it's outdated, and I think that, if we should get all new equipment.
No, it's definitely a little beat up, and if you're going to replace it, you got to replace it. $200,000 seems like a crazy number to me, but I haven't had to buy a swing set in a long time, so maybe it's in the ballpark of reasonable. But if the ARPA money is still excessive on top of that and then some, we could fix up we could redo that and still add other recreational structures in this process. So when it comes to this, so we're looking at, we really, they want to have hardcore decisions by September, is what you're saying, is what that came.
I'm gonna double check on the timeline.
That certainly gives us a couple of months to get a little harder numbers on some of the pricing and the things, and then still have a well advertised public outreach meeting to contact folks, and then give us a session or two to digest that before we finally present to ARPA.
Oh, so that's interesting, Mark. Yeah, I mean, we actually weren't thinking, I hear what you're saying. We weren't thinking that we would engage. This happened at a meeting that you weren't at. So we were thinking that the public engagement about the playground and whatever else we think makes sense that we request for the Volunteers Green is that once the money was granted, and approved, that it made sense to have the public outreach to engage the community in the ideas for how it might look and the natural elements and, XYZ would be presented. What Kirsten said is you can actually ask the different people that do these playgrounds and structure work, come and present in a public forum so that people can see what the ideas are and weigh in on it. So we did think it made sense to get the money first and then have the public outreach. And I believe you were not at that meeting.
I have been horribly absent from public engagement for the last couple months, and I want to apologize to you
That's
guys.
okay.
I know you
That's
guys
okay.
are plugging along and getting to, I was the same thing with the planning commission. It's been a horrible holiday season for me, and I want to apologize for not being there, but I will proffer that it
Okay,
would not be the worst idea
okay,
to get some public input on what we're talking about here, but
Yeah.
getting public buy-in on the basketball court, the dog park, the I just throw bocce out because I think bocce is a fun sport.
Bocce wasn't mentioned.
The pickle court and tennis courts up but get everybody sort of like get the community jonesed up for it and talking about it. And then after we're there and maybe they've got the money granted, then we can knuckle down on, okay, what kind of swing do you want? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
I mean, that I almost put that at the bottom of the list behind, okay, what are our big ticket items that we've reached out to the community and we have consensus on? Pickleball, tennis, basketball, pavilion, and get them to buy in on those ideas, then go to ARPA and say, this is what we want. Then we can reach out again and say,
Yeah.
okay, do we want a pavilion with an arch, or do we want, straight beams across? Do we
Yeah.
want 7 slides or 6 slides? You know what I mean? At $200,000, I can get a lot of slides in,
Yeah.
not even in the trades, but I can imagine that we can get a pretty dang expansive recreation jungle gym for 200K.
Yeah, so remember that, so I hear what you're saying, Mark, but one thing we gotta remember is ARPA requested for feedback and, some of these things were already listed. Basketball courts, were listed as priorities. It was mentioned in our survey 2 years ago. So I am thinking that we have some engagement. We don't, but you're right, we don't have, what do you guys think about a pavilion? I mean, it would all depend on like how many people can we actually get to a meeting or to fill out a survey or something like that. So I think that what I'll do is then I'll just ask, how much time do we have, because we would like to engage the public in the conversation. Can we actually have, we'll need more than a couple of months because we'll need to, kind of push it into May or June, we can talk about it in March, get something, for April and May to have, public comments, but we might not really have anything to say until June,
I agree 100%, Sherry. You're right on. I mean, I think we do need to talk about it a little bit longer, and but I definitely think that before we put in our second request, and I agree with the first request, which is great. It's a building block. But if they're looking like, okay, what else can we do? I think we want to, before we have to worry about specific designs, is to get some community buy-in. I can guarantee enough from porch forum notations and word of mouth, we can get a pretty engaged crew that'll go there, that'll come to our meeting, but more importantly, engage the community to engage ARPA in the buy-in on what we're recommending.
Okay.
Can I interrupt for a second? Yeah, so is there anything that we need to vote on at this point? Just curious.
No,
Okay.
I'm just trying to get a sense of direction for the next few meetings,
Okay, so I will say, I agree. I do think it makes sense to get an assessment of the current playground.
Okay,
And that we go to the select board to ask for that, whatever that costs.
Yeah.
So yes to that. I also want to let you know, I'm not here on March 21st, so I will not, so
okay,
just an awareness around conversations, voting, forum, stuff,
Gotcha.
I'm out of town and won't be available. I
Okay,
am available for other times before the 21st, but not at that
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
yeah, we
So-
switched it because of town meeting day.
Yeah, so that kind of, so I've, I got tickets, I'm going away, so
That's
that.
Okay, okay, that's
So,
great.
just for you to know, and I also am gonna be driving home. I see you're all very cozy in your little homes there, but I'm getting ready to go. And
Yes,
so that's part of, I just wanted to get a time frame around wrapping up for me.
yes, yes, we are way over. We started a little late, so, I think I
Yeah.
get where we're gonna go for the next, meeting and, yeah, and then, we'll go ahead and officially adjourn if I have a motion in a second.
It just quickly, should we, is there any feasibility, Duncan, in scheduling something that Kathy can attend for the next meeting? And
We can just like decide amongst ourselves dates that work. I mean, other committees do that as long as it's warned to the public beforehand.
Right, and it's even easier these days that we don't have to schedule the room so much, we can still do the room and we can do it hybrid, but you can do it all virtual if you need to.
Okay, so I'll just send out a poll to see, it might be a different day of the week or something, earlier before Kathy leaves, so we can do that, yeah. It just won't be town meeting day, which is the 7th, so, okay,
just,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Kathy, but just quickly, do we want to talk about trying to get in some pricing before March, or can we talk about that after our March meeting? About who we want to reach out to get some estimates on some of these other things that we've discussed?
yeah, I think for the basketball courts, I'm gonna ask Kirsten if she has an idea. I feel like she might, for the pavilion, I have no idea. And, for the courts or the soccer fields, I have no idea, but maybe the basketball courts.
Sure, just if you wanted to reach out to me in the interim.
Okay,
I don't know a lot of folks in the trades, but I'm
Perfect.
sure I can make some headway in getting
Okay.
rough numbers.
great, that would be very helpful. Okay. All right, so I think we got, 3 or 4 things to do. So, do I have the motion to adjourn?
Sure.
Okay, and I second it. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Drive safe, Duncan.